to stay on top of that conversation. And right now I'm joined by two gentlemen who are very passionate about environmental conservation. And allow me to start with the gentleman on the left, Dr. Kipkirui Langat, the chairman of ISLA. Many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
And we have with us Julius Kamau, who is the executive director at the East Africa Wildlife Society. Many thanks.
Thank you.
And let me start off with you, Mr. Kamau. Just picking up from the Deputy President's remarks that they are going to be very firm on matters to do with logging. Is this the only challenge you're facing as a country when it comes to deforestation?
Thank you so much for that question. And I think first to say that actually I would say as an environmentalist and as a forester that I'm very happy that at least sometimes some challenges also we can take some opportunities. That for the first time after a long, long time we have forestry coming up at the national discourse, and we can actually talk at it from the professional side and also from the leadership of the country.
All right.
But coming back to the issue or the question that you have asked, I think logging is one of the many complex issues. I think if you look at the challenges facing our forest today, it's ranging from grazing. Population is increasing, and therefore many people are looking for more land to do farming, and they're actually encroaching on the territories of forest. We have issues of illegal activity within the forest, and of course you can see for a few days, in the last days, you can see Kenya Forest Service capturing some of the people who are doing illegal issues like the charcoal, which is actually a big menace.
It's a big business.
It's a big business also. So I think there is a very many challenges, and we have to have a very integrated approach to dealing with all these challenges. Yes. Yeah.
And Daktari, of course, this logging issue has another context to it, and that is the drought that we've witnessed last year. And to some extent, the month of February was pretty dry. And we did see humanitarian efforts in different parts of the country, from northern Kenya, and even in Kericho. Perhaps give us the situational analysis of where we are.
Yeah, I think our concern is really on the Mau, and specifically the southwest Mau, which covers the counties of Bomet, Nakuru, and Kericho. And this comes from the historical invasion of the forest before the people were removed and brought to the current catline area. So our problem there currently, and the problem that Kericho is suffering from, is not a recent phenomenon. It is the phenomenon that came from a few years ago, in which some close to 20,000 hectares of prime forest was actually destroyed out of the 60,000 that forms the southwest Mau forest. Now, this particular forest is critical because that's where the rainfall that supports the tea industry comes from, and also supports the water that is used for generation of electricity by Kenyan, and of course for the populace that live from the top of the forest all the way to the lake. So we are dealing with a problem that was partially solved when the government when the government put up a cut line, and people were asked to move out, and they were compensated. And what happened naturally was there was some natural regeneration of the forest.
Sure.
But it actually transpires when you look closely that the big trees and even the bamboo has not grown because there was a re-entry of cattle grazing in the forest. And my colleague has raised cattle grazing to be a major area, and it's much more serious in natural forest than in areas where you're doing commercial production of trees.
All right. Yes. So what are the solutions to this, Daktari and Julius? We've seen government saying the issue of the moratorium. What other options are there on the table?
I would start by saying this. If you look at the new Forest Act, that's the Forest Conservation and Management Act, it actually is very elaborate. I don't think we are lacking law in Kenyan policies actually to drive forestry to where it should be. I think we just have to be honest with that. For example, the law, as we speak today, the Act of 2016, it says that the Cabinet Secretary will be able to give what we call a forest status report every 2 years. I think that's where we should begin. Because the intention of having a national forest status report is actually to be able now to dig this information you're looking for.
Yes.
And of course, having a task force is good, but it's not the end of the story.
It's a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
Well.
If you look at it, it's a very good step in the right direction. And I think hopefully one of the areas that the task force will be looking at is whether this country can have a normal and a routine reporting on the status of forestry. Mm-hmm. Because if we did that, we wouldn't be rushing, we wouldn't be reacting. We should be proactive in terms of planning. Right. And therefore, I think what we need to do as a country and solution is we need to have a programmatic approach, which is long-term, and which also integrate other ministries like water and food, and be able to drive an agenda that is not only on the short-term, but actually long-term. That's where we need to go.
In support of that, I think we in the Southwest Mau, we have a program that's running called the Initiative for Sustainable Landscapes, in which we have done exactly what my colleague here is saying, where all the players that matter in the forest, whether it is the private companies, the tea estates, or the community, or the people who are interested in looking after the rivers, the county government, the national government, the government agencies responsible for the forest, in this case, the Kenya Forest Service, Kenya Wildlife Service, WARMA, yes, all of them have agreed to come around this coalition we call the ISLA coalition, and we have since registered a trust, yes, which will remain as a permanent vehicle even beyond the time when the people who are supporting the program are doing. And the idea is we never planned a program from outside. All these stakeholders met, they went to the ground, they did studies on what interventions needs to be done, and together with the communities, including the communities living around the forest. All right. What we find is that what the government has already done to move the people from the forest, they are doing the buffer using the Nyayo Tison, which has been found to be successful elsewhere, and we are negotiating and already got substantial resources to do an electric fence to cover part of that forest to reduce the level of encroachment. All right. And Julius, I just want to get your closing thoughts as well. And looking at this big conversation of encroachment, yes, what alternatives can we give the people who are doing the encroachment? Because at the end of the day, they are the root cause of all this.
Of course, I think one thing is the awareness creation. I think if you all say that let's go to the forest and have a livelihood there, of course you not talk about forestry. And I think to me is appreciate the linkage between the forestry and the water provision and the food security. I think that's very important. And one thing I can say about Kenya, and I think I like the spirit in Kenya, when Kenyans stand up for something, they really do it. I think there's a prime opportunity for Kenyans actually, with the leadership showing there's goodwill from the president and the deputy president. I think if they were to rally up and support the ministry and all the institutions, the Kenyans actually follow. In fact, most of the discomfort actually came from the public. It's the public actually who came up and said, we don't have water. We believe there's something wrong happening in our forest. And I think that's critical. Now, let me just mention and say, month of March is very critical for this country because we celebrate the International Day of Forest on 21st of March this year. The theme this year is forest and sustainable cities. And of course, you know, Nairobi and other cities possibly are not even safe in terms of water. And what I would want to urge the CS for Environment and Ministry is actually, leading to that day, let us have, actually the forest law today says there should be a national tree planting week. Not even a day. People have been asking for a day. The law actually says a week. So we would want also to see the CS actually to look at the law and support with the Kenya Forest Service. They comply with that law by having a full week to actually create awareness leading to the International Day of Forest. And to say that that is not enough, this is just to create awareness. Kenyans should take a culture and the government to do tree planting on a daily basis. All right. And finally to close, because I won't talk beyond this, is that we appreciate the task force. And we hope also when they are delivering on their mandate, they are going to consult widely. All right. And of course, we are available to provide input if needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Indeed, a topic that we cannot exhaust in one sitting. And we appreciate your insights into this conversation, Dr. Langat and Mr. Kamau. Thank you so much for coming. Well, we want to go on a quick commercial break. On the other side of the break, we have with us Mary Mudhoni, who will be coming up to talk to us about the upcoming conference that will be a major game changer for women in business. You don't want to miss that interesting conversation. Coming up in a short while.
This is KTN News.